Welcome to part 4 by Bug Fables quest tier list. This video will see us chat on the quests in chapter 6 and 7. Well, I say 7, but there really are no added quests in chapter 7. Those are all post-game instead. Enough semantics though, we're starting right now. Madeleine is back and somehow better with Butler missing again, which must mean that she expected specifically the player to accept it. I mean, it wouldn't be again unless you accepted the first quest, right? Anyway, Seb is lost somewhere in the wild swamplands. While you hunt him down, you're accompanied by Madeleine, who is actually pretty competent in battle. She hits twice per turn for 2 damage per swing, dealing 4 damage total. It's usable enough. Where you'll find Seb is the room on the far east of the swamplands, with the lily pads in the gate. Once you talk to him, the hard part is over. You can then talk to Madeleine in her home to receive another lore book alongside 30 berries, a few status items, and if you accepted Aremi's quest, a leaf umbrella. This can get you additional berries from Aremi if you give it to her whether before or after finishing her quest. Despite not being a big fan of Madeleine's first outing, the second one at least offers more value. Though how much value you get depends on if you're patient enough to actually wait on Aremi, which I'm honestly not. And since it's pretty late in the game, berries on their own really aren't that valuable to me. Not a quest I consider worthwhile, but at least it's got variance. Second is Bumble, who believes they took her. She waits for you at Metal Island to venture into the Wasp Kingdom to rescue her sister Rebel, though it turns out you're just crashing her date. I'm not really a big fan of this quest, and it's not just because the reward is just a TP+. It's because, instead of coming with you, Bumble forces you to meet her at the gate beginning the far grasslands before she joins your party. It's minor, but it's annoying. Anyway, TP+ isn't really a bad reward, at least in Ruiji challenges. Otherwise, you're bound to have plenty of TP by chapter 6, and it makes TP+ almost entirely worthless. It's a shame that most TP+ medals are locked behind chapter 5, when they'd potentially be really useful if more than one was available earlier. But you're likely to rank up TP a few times before, so unless you physically could rank TP up, I'd always skip this quest. I'll rank it higher though because this quest is helpful with menu codes being factored in, and that's an important point. So far, a lackluster assortment of rewards. This brings us however to Isau with rare item wanted. If you talk to Isau in Defiant Roots Clinic, she asks you about a key item called the Sophie Petal, which can be found in the Stigmouth Den by flying over the door leading to Upper Stigmouth Lab. Returning the petal gives you a copy of HP Core and a few berries to go along with it. Finally, we're getting something interesting. HP Core is one of the most powerful medals in the entire game. Every 2 turns, it restores 2 HP to the bug where it's equipped to. On the surface, this sounds like a pretty poor boost, but by now in chapter 6, there are lots of ways to use a little extra bonus in HP. For instance, you have Kabbu Taunt, which when paired with Livecast, can make the cost of using Taunt practically free if Kabbu is given ample support. And don't even get me started on Livecast. I talk more about this medal in my medals tier list for defensive medals, but take my word for it, it's a fantastic medal to have. And it's even more busted when you have more than one. And the quest completing it may be a bit out of the way, but it's a very worthwhile quest to complete whenever you have the time. Hey Alex, what time is it? It's time. Time for, I guess, his quest. Alex is found in the residential area of the Ant Kingdom. For his quest, you defeat 10 Water Striders and receive a lore book in return for your troubles. Since it's doubtful you have beaten 10 of this type of enemy by now, you are likely to have to fight Water Striders in Meadow Lake to complete this quest. And the reward is something I don't care for, so skip. And Layna's got a similar problem with her quest, Best Friend in the Fog, though I find this quest to at least be valuable in an entirely unique way. Completing this quest involves escorting Layna through a field of pumpkins where she guides you on the right route to get through. Think the Haunted Wasteland from Zelda Ocarina of Time. Once you make it through, your reward is a lore book, where V echoes exactly why quests that offer this aren't quests I care for. But when it comes to Layna, she indirectly helps you a lot more with grinding berries, as this quest unlocks a shortcut where you can warp to a spider who will trade you berries for items. If you were to purchase a bunch of long-legged summoners from the Tarantula Wizard's Tower and sell them to Pinky here, you can get on average about 200 plus berries in a matter of minutes. And in less time than either the Bush Method in Lost Sands or the Spike Cards Tournament. It's honestly worth it to accept this quest just to make grinding that much easier if you still need berries. So I'm at least willing to say that the reward here is pretty good. Not great, but definitely worth considering. Tarar's been antsy waiting for his time, but here is now. The quest Can't Sleep involves a certain termite in the termite capital. Give him a drowsy cake and a shot candy, and you're given a TP+ medal in return. This quest is easier to prepare for than Bumble's though, and that's honestly enough for me to rank it a tier higher, as this by definition is what I consider situational. Yatanta's lunch delivery quest however is straight up good. It's as simple as talking to this termite in front of the Coliseum, taking his lunch to his brother who is nearby the ruler in the Forsaken Lands, and getting yourself an HP core medal. Everything I said about Isau's quest applies here, but it's also much faster to complete this time around, so I think my placement here goes without saying. Now for Artia, who's in search of paint, or as I like to call it, the closest Bug Fables gets to feeling like Paper Mario TTYD's General White quest. Completing this quest asks of you to do a lot of moving around from locale to locale to get Artia's black paint for your reward. A Crystal Berry. First you talk to Artia, next talk to this guy in the alleyway at Thermite Capital, just to find he isn't talking to you. Then you hike back to Artia, and she tells you to try talking to her boyfriend. In this case, the bouncer in the underground tavern. He gives you a note to take to the alleyway termite, and finally gives you the black paint, which you get to Artia then. No, it's nowhere near as bad as the actual General White quest that's required to beat the game. Honestly, it's closer to the Trouble Center request, which is actually kind of fitting. As for the reward being a Crystal Berry, it's not much of a reward if you ask me. Yeah, there are some neat medals you can buy with it, but it takes longer than most others to find the same item. So you'd probably only try this quest if you either literally can't remember any other locations, or you're a completionist. Ultimately, at least it's worth more your time than any quest with lore books as their only reward. Takkun's quest is the last of Chapter 6 and the last quest before the postgame. It's Seedling Hunt. In one of the Termite Capital apartments, you can talk to Takkun and show him how many different seedling varieties you've defeated. Once you defeat a total of 50 seedlings, you're given Seedling Affinity. What this medal does is it multiplies the odds of encountering a golden seedling by 2.5 times. It can cut down a good bit in hunting them down, and unlike Water Striders or Thugs, you face so many seedlings up to now, it's actually very likely you'll stumble into having enough KOs by accident. And if you're well versed in hunting as I am, you will appreciate having an easier method of finding them available to you. Between top and high tier on this tier list, I'm honestly conflicted because this medal is not going to help you at all in battle. But being fair, high tier seems plenty appropriate if only because its advantage purely comes in time. Roy is our boy with the first of the post-game quests, and he's brimming with a new hope. To complete this quest, escort Roy to the fridge in the Deadlands where he aims to try and grow crops there. That's not all though, as you must then fight the 3 residents of the Deadlands, the Deadlanders. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Since you fought them before with Maki, you should already know what you're getting into here. And your reward for this quest to be completed is a single Bond Berry, an item that permanently increases your max TP by 1. I feel like the post-game quests are kinda tricky to accurately judge because the game's about already over, and there really isn't much else to do unless you're just a completionist. That being said, an increased TP cap is not something I'm willing to pass up, even though the fight to get it is pretty hard. Good reward, but it's hardly a factor anymore. On the flip side of the reward table though is Rebecca, who wants to tie up some loose ends. You're asked to escort her to where you fought the False Monarch, and before you ask, I decided against talking about bounties in this video, or the series in general to be honest. Maybe in a community choice video, but I'll give my opinions only then. For now, let's talk about Rebecca's quest. You head to Forsaken Lands where you took out the Mothflies congregating there, and you're flung then into a gauntlet where you have to fight wave after wave of Mothflies and Mothlight clusters. Surviving this gauntlet lets you a free Heartberry, an item that permanently increases the max HP of one of your bugs by 1. Yeah, by this point in the game, I really don't know why you'd want this. More HP is nice, but, well, you heard what I had to say about Roy's quest. I guess I put it in a situational camp because about all that's left I could think about where this would be useful is the Cave of Trials. And then there's Maki's quest, Confidential, which is about the only one I say is truly worth your time. Maki seeks your help to see that Yin matures into an adult, but to accomplish this, you must fend off several waves of leaf bugs as Yin grows. If you're successful, Maki gives you a free Super Pepper and Iron Seed, items that permanently increase your attack stat and defense by 1 respectively. This is a huge deal to be given items like this whenever these show up because of their scarcity. When it comes to attacks that hit multiple times, the extra point of damage becomes a massive factor in making your damage much more lethal. On the flip side, having higher defense makes a practice of stonewalling powerful hits so that you can take advantage of medals like say HP Core or Miracle Matter on your other bugs much more viable. Like an anchor, it helps you drastically in holding fast and staying alive. There's also the boss fight against Team Maki, but I don't really care about that. Winning gives you 75 berries to compensate for any items you use, but that's all worth mentioning in my opinion. Honestly, the fact that the reward for protecting Yin is as good as it is, it's plenty enough reason for me to say that I could put Maki in the top tier. But what's truly amazing is that any quest at this point in the game would qualify for a rank this high. Team Slacker inversely, I can't say that about. They have a quest called Getting Bored, which just involves you fighting them to try and win. Though win or lose, the quest is completed. And there's no penalty for losing beyond your HP and CP being set to 1 for the former and whatever you ended the fight as for the latter. This quest, alongside Rebecca's, was actually added after the launch of the game, at least a whole year after the fact, and it really shows since there's really nothing to talk about. So yeah, it exists. Kabbu also exists, and Kabbu's request is that you like the video and watch the time I beat the BOSS rush on EX mode with only him without using items or HP heals. He also mourns over his old pals who gave their lives for him to escape the wild swamplands. I could joke about how this quest is amazing, but I don't think lying to my viewers is a good idea. Anyway, I'll see you in that video he told you about if you comment.